Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Planetos podcast, a podcast committing to telling your Song of Ice and Fire story. I'm one of your hosts, Travis. You can find me on Twitter at Sir_Travis.
And I'm your other host, Brett. You can find me at Homely Pillow on Twitter.
The Planetos podcast is dedicated to the fans of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire and HBO's Game of Thrones. Like we said, we're committed to telling your story. You're passionate, you're insightful, you're a little crazy, and you make this community one of the best in the world. Yes, we're looking at you, Star Wars, though to be fair, both Brett and I are card-carrying members of that community too. So this isn't a contest. We're not going to measure anything. We're not going to go there. We're just going to have some fun. Before we get started, a warning for all you listeners out there. This podcast will discuss all material, the books, including the main series, Dunk and Egg, The World of Ice and Fire, the novellas, comics, the upcoming Fire and Blood, the Winds of Winter sample chapters, and all the episodes of the TV show, including commentaries, background material, and bonus content, as well as theories and essays, quotes and interviews by George, anything and everything. So let's get this podcast started. Following the release of A Game of Thrones in 1996, the community sprang into existence and began to develop online to explore the mysteries of the novel. Fans came together over something they mutually loved. They began asking George questions, by Raven even. Just kidding, delivered by your friendly neighborhood postal worker. To this day, some questions still persist. Who is Jon Snow's mother? We think the show answered that. How did Dany birth the dragons? What the hell is the three-eyed crow? What game is Littlefinger and Varys playing? With each successive book, the community grew larger and larger, and of course, with the show's debut in 2011, the community skyrocketed. You can watch people react to the shocking twists on YouTube. You can read thousands of pages of analysis on blogs and websites. You can share ideas with friends on Facebook groups. You can scroll through hundreds of Reddit posts each day. And you can listen to podcasts focusing on rereads, characters, events, chapters, theories, whatever. And the good thing about this community is it will continue to grow. We have spin-offs coming, or successor shows, as George wishes them to be called, such as the recent announcement by HBO that a new show would focus on the descent from the golden age of heroes into Westeros' darkest hour, the Long Night, which I think we're going to have a little more to say about later in this podcast. We also have 2 more books that will be mega smash hits once they're released, guaranteeing even more fans flocking to Planetos. So you may be asking yourself, why another podcast about the riveting world of Westeros and Essos? Why do this? Do we need more analysis of the books and show? Do we need more analysis of the fandom? Do we need more podcasts in an already crowded medium?
Well, like we said, this is about the fans. Yes, we are going to cover the books and the show, but we want to make it a very unique experience by focusing on the community of fans that have grown around the story. And our name is inspired by the fans. We all know that Planetos is a term created and used to refer to the world that Westeros, Essos, Uthos... What is that word? All those and Sithorios exist upon. At least I got that one.
You got that one.
Okay. And we know some people don't like that word, but it's meant as a homage to the creative spirit of our community. So we felt it was an appropriate use and name for our podcast. Plus, Planetos podcast, it actually does sound really cool.
Kudos to you, Brett, for coming up with that, because it is a pretty cool name.
Well, thank you. But I didn't even consider it being a fan name, and it would just go so well with the podcast when I thought it up. I just was like, it sounds pretty cool. I'll throw it out there. And simple. So one of the ways we're going to celebrate the fans and this community is by letting you tell your story. How you came to discover the series, what captured your attention, which characters do you love, what characters do you hate, what would be the best king or queen, or who would be the best king or queen. I can't read, I'm illiterate. What's your favorite fan theory? How do you think the story will end? When the hell will The Winds of Winter be released? We want to talk about the story inspiring art and music, painting, riddle making, and of course, all of the theories, both practical and crackpot. All of that and more. But in order to get started, we have to go back and tell our own stories first. We've got to introduce ourselves to you. We've got to get to know each other better. So, how this podcast came to be. Travis and I met on the internet. And no. It was not a dating website. It wasn't Tinder or eHarmony or Farmers Only. You know, he didn't swipe right on me. But
Wait. What do you have against farmers? Those are the best commercials ever.
Yes, they do. They do have the greatest commercials.
Actually, just full disclosure, my wife and I met on Match.com. So I might be a little older, but I dig technology to find true love.
Hey, sometimes you got to do it, you know.
Hey, it worked out very well, so I'm very happy with the results.
But okay, so but really, I made a post in the History of Westeros podcast group, and Travis shared an idea he had and offered to be a guest. I was like, no, do it with me, and now we're here.
All right, well, Brett, first of all, you're not taking enough credit. I mean, you're the one that really jumped on the idea of doing a podcast. And like I said, I just had a concept and idea, but I appreciate what we're doing here. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I think that hopefully we'll be able to include a lot of fans, a lot of folks out there, and, you know, really examine the fandom and see, you know, kind of what makes everyone tick, but also why we all love this story so much. But like Brett said, you know, one of the things we want to do with this podcast is we want to let you tell your story. And I think we've all come to this series in a lot of different ways. Some people have been reading this since 1996. Others...
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's. I think in 1996, I think I was, I was in the 8th grade or a freshman in high school, one of the two. And just to think that people have been invested in this story for that long is just... You know, it's just amazing. But, you know, we want you to understand our history with the material, not because of our knowledge or anything like that. I think it just makes the fan experience so much better to get to know each other and everything. So, you know, Brand Stark with me back to 2010, because that's when I first found out about this series. So I can't. Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, let's go into the werewood net. Let's go.
Okay. All right. Let's go. Werewood net deep dive. Actually, it'd be like, isn't it like the pool by the werewood tree in Winterfell? Like, people think that that's like a huge, like, you can swim down to it to connect to something. I don't know.
Ooh.
Have you ever heard that?
No, I haven't.
I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure where they think it connects to, because I would hate to like try to swim that far, because you'd probably obviously die. So
is that how Bran's getting back from that cave?
Yeah, well, Bran's a squisher, so he's probably able to breathe underwater. Anyway, so Bran Stark with me back to 2010. Enter the werewood net. Let's go. That's when I first heard about Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire. I can't imagine not knowing about this show or this book series, but there was a time that I didn't. I had no clue. Or if I did know, I just glanced over it. So at the time, I was living and working on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. And it had been a really long day at work, and I remember, you know, I had the TV on, I was making spaghetti or something, and there was a preview. There was a preview for Game of Thrones on HBO. I don't know what I was watching. Again, the TV was on in the background, or I was watching something, but there was a preview for Game of Thrones. And what's really funny is, you know, when you watch HBO, you're usually not watching the commercials. There's very few commercials. So I just distinctly remember that original teaser, and I thought, oh, what's this show? This looks really interesting. This looks like something that I would like. So I went to my calendar, and I do this to this day. I mean, I wake up in the middle of the night setting reminders on my calendar to remind me to do things. And I set a reminder for it. it was coming out in April 2011, so I was pretty excited about that, and set a reminder that I'd make sure I recorded it, because I've always been a huge fantasy and sci-fi fan. Lord of the Rings was a staple growing up. I remember watching all those Ralph Bashki cartoons. I don't know if you've ever seen this, Brett, with The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings.
I've actually never watched the cartoons for the.
Oh,
I need to. I need to.
Yeah, you definitely need to. I mean, especially the Hobbit cartoon. I mean, I love. I like right now. I can show you. It's in my collection. I will watch it at least once a year just because it's that good. But it's just really good. But Lord of the Rings, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I like any kind of cheesy 80 fantasy flick. I've read the Conan series, the Robert E. Howard stories. I tried to start Wheel of Time. I had to stop reading Wheel of Time because it was just too much. But all that. Willow. I don't know who out there loves Willow, but I do, and I'm ready for a Willow 2. I love that movie. Apparently Val Kilmer is ready to do it. So if Kathleen Kennedy is listening to this, Lucasfilm needs to make Willow 2 happen right now. So there, that's my plug for that. But anyways, like I said, if I had heard of a Game of Thrones or a Song of Ice and Fire before, I don't remember that. So 2010 was when I first heard about it. If I had been to a local bookstore, my first stop is the sci-fi fantasy section. And so if I saw it, I don't remember. But, I don't remember talking to friends, family, anything about it. So again, watching HBO, seeing that teaser, setting a reminder, that's how I got introduced to the show. But I got to be honest, there were 2 other shows that I was more excited about during this time.
You cheater.
I'm a cheater. Yeah. I wish I knew I would have the love that I did for Game of Thrones at the time, and I would have just bypassed these 2 shows, because when I tell you all what those shows are, you'll understand.
Hey, I'm super guilty of it too. So.
So the first one was The Walking Dead. I got to be honest. I love The Walking Dead. I haven't loved it for the past 3 or 4 seasons. That's a whole other story. We're not going to talk about that on this podcast. But I'm a huge horror film fan, and I have a very close friend who has always been obsessed with zombies and end of the world movies and stories and apocalypses and all that. So I was really ready for that. And I know there's probably a lot of you out there that are ready to delete us or unsubscribe from this because we're talking about The Walking Dead. But that was the one show that I was really invested in that fall of 2010. And I remember, I think it was over the summer, they released a teaser at Comic-Con, and it was set to the Sun Ain't Gonna Shine Anymore. And I don't remember if you remember that teaser, but there was that distinct shot from the first season of Rick, with the gun looking through the scope and seeing all those walkers. And I think one of them, if you know the character Morgan, one of them was his wife. Yeah, so it was just an excellent teaser, and it really drew you in. Obviously, things have gone downhill for The Walking Dead, but I was invested in that. That's what I was looking forward to watching.
I didn't see. I never saw that trailer, but once I get into my story, it'll all make sense.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I would encourage you to go watch that trailer, because you'll probably cry, because you will think, what the hell happened to this show?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy who did the first, I think, 2 seasons, Frank Darabont. I mean, he's a legend of
3.
Of
he
film.
did first 3.
Oh, did he first 3? Okay. So he did the Shawshank Redemption,
which makes sense.
Others. Right. He's good at that character development, and like Game of Thrones, that's what was important on The Walking Dead. It was about the characters. It was about them dealing with the world, and that's what I was really invested in. The zombies and the apocalypse were a secondary issue, and it's just unfortunate that the show has gone like that. But we're not here to talk about The Walking Dead. We're going to move on because again, there was another fantasy show that I was even more excited about that was coming out in the spring of 2011, and that was Camelot. I don't know if you've ever seen that show, Brett, if you remember it.
I remember it a little bit, but no, I never watched it.
Yeah. So I was really excited for that, and I remember, again, I remember setting a reminder to record it. I wanted to watch the show because, everybody knows the story of Camelot. I mean, there's been numerous adaptations and different ways of telling it, but if I say Camelot to you, you think of King Arthur, you think of Knights of the Round Table. You may have read T.H. White's The Once and Future King series. You think of the Kennedys legacy in the United States. That great The Sword in the Stone by Disney, or that epic movie Excalibur by John Boorman. I mean, it's one of my personal favorite fantasy films of all time. The word Camelot is a powerful force in Western society. You know what that means. You know of Arthur and Guinevere and Lancelot, Merlin. All the whole story, the pulling the sword from the stone, the lady in the lake. I mean, everybody knows that, and I was amazed at what this show was going to do. I was super excited to watch it, and then it premiered, and it was good. I mean, it wasn't bad. I remember watching the whole first seasons, and I was invested in the characters. And I don't exactly remember when it premiered versus when Game of Thrones premiered, but then Game of Thrones premiered, and I watched it, and that was it. Like, I was like, yep. What are these other shows? Who cares? What the hell is this show that I'm watching? And I went from the mindset of, okay, I'm going to check this out. Talking about Game of Thrones, I'm going to check this out. I've got my reminder set. I'm going to record. I'm going to watch it. Again, I can't remember if I watched it live when it premiered on that Sunday night on HBO. I think I did. And I was just absolutely blown away. Like, it was unlike anything I had seen. Yes, it had the fantasy elements. It had the swords and the knights and the castles, but it was a different way of telling a story. And like I said, the Walking Dead has had a precipitous fall over these last few seasons. Camelot didn't last beyond one season. But Game of Thrones hooked me like nothing had since then, and it still captures me to this day. That opening scene with the White Walkers, the twincest, Jaime and Cersei. I mean, I was like, these what the hell? These people are having sex. Bran being pushed from the window, Sansa's direwolf being killed, the king dying, Robert Baratheon dying, Ned's execution, and then that final scene of the first season, those dragons being birthed. And I was like, again, this was spectacle like I hadn't seen before. I mean, it was completely different. And that all happened in the first season. I mean, I was just absolutely blown away by what this story was and what it was telling. It was shock and surprise. And I think sometimes it gets an unfair rap for, all that show's just all about the shocks and the surprises and the deaths and the twists. And it's not. I don't think it's necessarily just that. I mean, it's playing with fantasy tropes. It's telling, a very traditional fantasy story in a very unique way. And I think that's what makes it really powerful.
I agree.
And again, those shocks and surprises aren't done, just to do it. That's not what George is doing. It's reality. This is based in, real world human interactions, real world events. It has a basis in reality. And, even to this day, if you compare some of the real world events that humans have done and participated in, sometimes they pale. The events of Game of Thrones pale in comparison to what our own human history can dream up. So this was rooted in reality. It was rooted in real world myth, and it was done in such a masterful way from that very first episode. It was complex, it was scary, it was thrilling. But remember where I was. I was working on Hill. I still work in politics and government, and this show was political. It was political in a unique way, and it's become a cultural juggernaut, and it's just fascinating that something that's so intricately pieced together and so political is this powerful, because you think that of the trajectory of the series, those first few seasons, it's the character interactions, it's the machinations and the manipulations that really drive people to think, wow, this series is amazing. But I was working in Capitol Hill, and I saw things like this. Yeah, okay, I didn't see people poison each other or um, sieging the Capitol or anything like that. But it's what people do to each other. It's what politicians do. Old friendships can make people do stupid things. Bad relationships can negatively affect compromise. Um, Sometimes allies will abandon each other at the drop of a hat. I mean, it was statecraft in reality. I mean, this was statecraft being played out in a fantasy series. It was crazy. They were debating how to rule. Who has the rights to do that, and how you do it right and how you do it wrong. Some people are ruling in this kingdom properly. Some people are doing it terribly, and how all of that can play out in the future. I mean, it was just fascinating to me, and I always come back to that scene. I think it's in season 3. It might be in season. That conversation between Varys and Littlefinger about chaos is a pit, chaos is a ladder. I mean, that's obviously a very famous scene, but for someone who studied political science and government, that really speaks to me, because you think about our own world. It's what Varys says. People have to buy into the dream. They have to buy into something that holds them together, that binds them together. And again, that's the system we live under. I mean, our system isn't right, other systems aren't wrong. It's that we've decided this is the system that we want, and we all have to buy into that. And I think that's just amazing that George in the books and in the TV show is exploring that. I mean, you're dealing with a fantasy show that's exploring those real world realities, and it was just beyond anything that I had seen at the time. They were talking about real, honest to God issues through a fantasy prism, and I think that's such a unique way of doing it. And obviously, a lot of science fiction and fantasy do that. I mean, it's always been about telling a bigger story, a meta story, than just what's on the screen or on the page. I mean, Star Wars does that. Star Wars tells a very mythological fantasy story, but it's also talking about power and war and all of that, in a very pop culture way. But Game of Thrones does that, very, very well. I mean, it does an amazing job at that.
I think it does it. I don't know. I don't know if there's any other kind of fantasy type style show that does it better than, well, at least book wise, anyways, too. I mean,
right. I mean, I think the only thing that I would say, and I'm really excited. There's a new film series coming out, a Dune. I don't know if you've ever read Dune or
I've
seen the movie.
I've been really wanting to get the audiobooks for it.
Yeah, Dune is an amazing book series. It's steeped in these politics, but it's written. What's interesting is it's written by. I hope I get this right, and our listeners out there, if we have listeners, will probably correct me, but Frank Herbert was, I believe, an environmental scientist. He approached Dune from a very scientific method. He was interested in the worlds and the science behind a lot of the stuff, even though there's a lot of science fiction and fantasy woven into it. But again, this also, Dune deals with a lot of noble families that are spread across this vast empire and control trade routes and worlds that are rich in minerals and armies and stuff. It's definitely not. It's complex. It's very complex, but I wouldn't describe it as complex as A Song of Ice and Fire. But anyways, that's probably the only other thing. But again, we're gonna get those in films. The guy who made Arrival and Blade Runner 2049, I think he's going to do an excellent job at those new film adaptations. Yeah, I mean it's going to be really good.
I watched Arrival, and man, that was a great movie.
Yeah, it's I mean that movie. Yes, that's about dealing with the arrival of alien beings, but that movie's about language. That movie is about learning how to communicate. Like that's what really fascinates me about that movie. But anyways, so again, we were seeing on the screen with Game of Thrones, these political machinations playing out. And so I watched that first season, and again, I was blown away. And so I don't remember if I bought them myself or if I got them as a Christmas gift, maybe for myself. But I bought the books, and I decided, I'm going to read these. I hadn't yet jumped into the online community or Reddit or YouTube, any of that. But I knew from the material and from the show that these are based on a book. And so I bought the series. And I think at that time, I don't think A Dance with Dragons had been released yet. But anyways, so I bought the first 4 books. And I read A Game of Thrones sometime around Christmas, New Year's of 2011, 2012. Actually, I think Dance with Dragons would have been out yet, but I didn't pick it up. But anyways, but then I stopped. I stopped after A Game of Thrones because, I had come to the show first. I wanted to watch the show and then read A Clash of Kings. So that's what I did next. I watched season 2, then I read A Clash of Kings, and then this is where it gets kind of fuzzy for me. I don't really remember if I read A Storm of Swords before or after I watched season 3 and 4. I think I may have read it between season 3 and 4 because I think I remember the Red Wedding. I saw that on Game of Thrones first. I didn't read it in the books, so I may have done that. But anyways, that's where it kind of gets vague. I don't remember again when I read those, but again, it just kept getting better and better, and the books were just so complex, and there were so many characters, and the writing is brilliant. I mean, I don't think you can look at it and not think that George is really, really intelligent. He's good at world building. He's good at characters. When he gets all of this, he does it remarkably well. But then around that time, season 3, season 4, I put the books down. I put the books down, and there were some changes in my personal life. I had met my soon-to-be wife. We were dating and moving in together, planning to get married, and so I kind of put the books aside, watch the seasons, and then I remember watching season 5, and we might get some hate mail here, but Stannis Baratheon died, and I was like, what the hell? This can't be right. He's got more to do.
To be fair, when he died, I hadn't read the books yet, so I was just like, but
right.
But
yeah, and like I said, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying, but like once I started listening to the podcast, and then I went back through and watched the series again, I was like, they really did him dirty. I mean, they really did.
Yeah. And this was about the time that I was really getting into other podcasts like Game of Owns and Radio Westeros and History of Westeros, and I was starting to go to Reddit, and I was watching YouTube. So again, I think I had finished A Feast for Crows, but hadn't really taken the plunge into A Dance with Dragons. So, but I kind of knew the story. I mean, I knew that obviously I'd read the books. I've watched season 4. I knew Stannis was up north, but I kept hearing about this grand northern conspiracy. Kept hearing, he's marching on Winterfell. There's going to be this battle. There's something about a lake. He's going to trick people into falling through a lake. He's got a beacon atop a tower that's going to. I was like, and then he dies, and I was like, what the hell's going on with season 5? So, and that's kind of where I started to compartmentalize the book and the show.
Yeah, that's a
and I think it was important to do that. I especially, I look. I'll say this to everyone,
especially when you heard the bad pussy line.
Well, yeah, because Dorne might not be my favorite plot line in the books. It's interesting though. It's much more interesting than what the show gave us. But I look. I don't want to. We might be critical of some of the things on the show. I think you can probably find there's going to be a few fans that are going to find things in the books that they don't like. But this is the same argument. You and I have talked about this at length. That I don't want to be negative. Like I don't want to be negative just to be negative. I do not like fandom that's like that. Like just I think sometimes fans build up their expectations. They are so devoted to a series that they think things should go this way, and these are creative people who are making them, and they own the characters, they own the story, they can do with what they want. So, and I go ahead.
Oh well, I was just gonna say, and to be fair, like when if I had never looked more into the story and read the books and listened to these podcasts, which I do that with a lot of shows. I never go any further than watching the show, knowing there's a book. But if I had never done that, I probably wouldn't be nitpicking the show as much. So, and it's just not. It's not that I don't enjoy the show, but some things are bothersome. But it doesn't It's never terrible.
No, you compare this show to anything else on TV, and there are very few that even come close to the production value, the characters, the fights, the battles, the digital effects, the music. My God, I hope that's one thing that we'll cover on this podcast. That Ramin Djawadi is writing like John Williams film scores. His music is so well done for these characters in the show. So I know that's one thing we're going to talk about, but it's just on another level than a lot of other shows are.
Yeah, I'm really scared that I'm not going to be able to get into like another series after this because it still is far superior than most, and it's really hard for me to get into new series. So
yeah,
and then
I agree with you.
Like I couldn't get into Vikings. I tried. I watched like 3 or 4 seasons of it, but I still couldn't get into it because the production value is just nowhere near Game of Thrones is, and it's really hard. It's really hard for me personally. So
I agree with you. There have definitely there's some definitely great episodes of Vikings and some interesting characters, but it's nowhere near the complexity that Game of Thrones. Although I don't know if you ever saw this episode of Vikings, but it's probably the best in my opinion. It's either in season 3 or 4, but it's when they sack Paris, and the Vikings just they can't break through the Frankish defenses, and so Ragnar basically decides he's going to make a deal with them. And I think part of the deal that he constructs is that he'll be baptized. He'll be baptized a Christian. And he's baptized a Christian at some point during the season. And then not to give anything away, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't care.
Okay.
Maybe some people.
Yeah, and I'm addressing our listeners out there. But he's baptized a Christian. He pretends to go over to that faith, and then he fakes his own death and demands to be buried in the cathedral in Paris. Well, he springs out of the coffin, and the Vikings basically just turn on all of the Frankish soldiers, and they take everything. It's a really epic scene. Like that was a Game of Thrones type moment. But again, like I just said, I looked at that like, oh, this is like Game of Thrones. This is very, very well crafted storytelling and character manipulation. And again, I was looking at it through the prism of Game of Thrones. But I totally get
Well, you sold me. Now I got to go back and at least get to that part.
You got to at least get to that part because that's pretty good because that dynamic between Ragnar and his brother. I can't remember his name.
What is his name?
Yeah. It
I
shoot.
for
Anyways, it starts with an R. Rolo.
Rolo, like yes, because I always thought of the Rolo's candy every time I
Yeah,
say.
yeah, yeah. And so Rolo goes over and becomes like a duke. Uh, the king of Frank. I got ready to say Frankie. I don't think that's proper. Um, but he makes him into a duke, and he marries like his daughter or one of the noble women, and there's a pretty interesting dynamic there between Ragnar and his brother. And I'll say like there's some interesting like when they go back to Mercia and Wessex in England. There's a very interesting. There's actually a character that always reminded me of a Stannis type. He's just
Oh,
a very martial man. I think he's the king of Wessex in the show. But anyways, like there's some definite interesting characters and moments and episodes. But I get what you're saying. It just again, it's not on the same level as Game of Thrones.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Well said. Well
again,
said.
well, thank you. So again, that I started to diverge the two properties in my mind, the books and show. And look, I'm not gonna. I know there's a lot of people out there who are really hard on the show, especially since season 5, and I can understand that. There's a lot of people in this community that are fed up that we don't have a new book yet, and they're either out or they're like, look, I'm just going to take a break. I'm going to step out. I'm going to wait till the next book comes out. I can't deal with this. Or
I
whatever.
I actually know someone who is not or they're not watching. I forget when they stopped. I think they stopped at season 5, but they're not watching the show until the next book
Oh
comes
wow,
out. So
wow,
and I
yeah,
think they
that's
stopped right before season 6 came out. So
wow. Yeah, I mean, I saw people talking about that. I saw people saying, "Oh, well, I'm getting out," and again, I just there'd be no way I could leave the show. Like, and that's part of the reason, like, why I compartmentalized the two, why I separated the two. So, you know, I'm not one of these people that thinks season 5 to season 8 is just fan fiction. I think part of it may be because they may only have an outline to go on. I don't know. And the theorizing is a little frustrating because we're not there. We're not a member of the cast. We're not a member of the crew. We don't really know what they're going on. We can theorize, we can speculate, and that's fine. But I always refer to season 1 through 4 as adaptations because they've cut some characters, they've changed some events around, but they're pretty much beholden to the story that George laid out in the first 3 books. Season 5 on, I like to call them inspired by. Like, these characters, these events, they're inspired by either what George is intending with that final outline that he gave to the showrunners. That here's where I'm getting to. Here's what's going to happen with Jon and Daenerys and Tyrion and Cersei and all of them. So again, if it to each his own, don't or to each her own. However, don't I do not begrudge people for either criticizing it or taking a step back. I understand that. But the thing that really keeps me going is the community. Like, I've met some really interesting, creative, fascinating, fun people in this community. I mean, we always have a good time on Reddit. We have a great time on Twitter, on all the Facebook groups. I mean, it's fun. It's fun to interact. It's fun to be a part of something, especially something like this that's so complex that I mean, you go to Reddit right now, you might see a theory that you're like, oh my gosh, I never thought about that, and that's what I think is really fascinating. There are people making artwork, there are people writing music, there are people making riddles. I mean, there's a person on Twitter right now who does riddles. It's the most clever thing I've ever seen, and they're hard. Like, these riddles really hard.
I've,
Um,
I'm actually following her now, and
oh, really?
I just need to get on Twitter more because I've never been good at Twitter. But
Yeah. Well, as my wife would say, I wish you were on Twitter less. So sometimes I have to check myself. Um, and so this community is fun. Like we're part of it is meeting folks and interacting and talking about something you love. And I think that's what's really healthy about this community. And I know there's some people out there who have some different ideas than other people do, and some people sometimes seem like their theories might be in the minority of opinion or
okay,
whatever. But I mean, I got to be honest, the people I've interacted with, even those that I disagree with, like they all seem to be pretty decent people, and this seems like a pretty healthy community. There are some other fan communities right now going through civil wars, uh, like Star Wars. It's really unfortunate, but
yeah,
it's just, and that it's just look. You can like a movie, you can dislike a movie, you can like a book, you can dislike a book. Like, just don't be mean to each other. Don't disrespect each other. Don't tear each other down. If someone thinks something works and you don't lash out at them. If someone doesn't like something, don't say they're, this, that, or the other. Just respectfully disagree. That's something that sadly is starting to really really be a big problem, especially in America. That we just need to all step back and try to understand each other and respect each other's opinions, and it'll make us all a lot better for it. So again, this is an amazing. The fan community is amazing. That's why we wanted to start this podcast. We want to do things differently. We not that people aren't doing great things. I mean, you and I talked about this, Brett. Like, we listen to so many podcasts in this community that, like, sometimes I just look at it. And for anybody, full disclosure, I'm pretty OCD. Um, like when I see a long list of downloads, like I'm like, oh my god, how am I going to get through at least 3 of these today? Because I've got to weed these out. And
I
that's just the way I think.
I listen to him all day, every day. Until now. So now I had to go back and like individually like listen to chapters and like
Yeah.
so now I'm taking a little bit, but I still watch what I can throughout the week.
Yep.
So
Yep. Oh, I totally agree with you. Like
and I
I'm
rewatch or
fully.
re-listen to them too.
Yeah, I'll do that too. Like, I'll go back um, and um, you know, try to pick up on something they've said or an interesting fact or an insight that they have that I never got before, and I'll try to like reread that chapter or rewatch that episode and go back and listen. No, it's pretty amazing the content that's out there. So we're all we all have something that we love. We're going to get more material soon. I mean, we're getting Fire and Blood this fall, which is the Targaryen history book. I don't remember what king it goes to, but it goes to I think it goes to like right with the end of the Dance of Dragon, Aegon the Third, maybe. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But that's going to be something that um, people are really going to enjoy and focus on. And at some point, we're going to get the Winds of Winter. I really think it's coming next year sometime. I don't think that there's a grand conspiracy by George to wait till the show ends.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean I
there's
think
just
it's written. I mean I think he's what is it
oh
like?
you
Brendan Beefish said he or someone wasn't it him that said he's just trying to condense it, or was it? It might have been Maester Monthly talking about Brendan Beefish's question he asked George uh, a few weeks
yeah
ago.
yeah he's talking I think Beefish talked about the fact that think about all the material he probably has written, and it's the same thing that happened with like not that he had a Dance with Dragons completed, because even if you have 2,000 pages, that's not necessarily done. You're still tweaking things and your editors are reviewing it and all that. But he realized, oh my gosh, I have too much. And so I think B-Fish pointed out that George basically removed 500 to 600 pages from A Dance with Dragons. So he probably has a lot of material written for The Winds of Winter. And, one thing that Poor Quentin and Brendan B-Fish are pointing out on their excellent podcast, not a cast, and everyone should listen to that podcast as well. I mean, they're doing a great job in their reread. And I'm very excited. I think it's June 28th. They're having a Stannis episode, so I'm reading. I'm reading for that.
Is it a Patreon thing? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm definitely.
Yeah,
I gotta definitely. Yeah,
it's going to be a Patreon episode.
I was gonna do it, but then I was gonna do the $5 thing, but then to ask questions, you have to have the $10 one. I was like, I have to think twice, but no, I'll probably just do it.
You can just give me your questions and you can get your question answered. They're probably if they ever listen to this podcast, they might penalize me for it. So anyways, like
I'll just quit paying for my RuneScape subscription and just
prioritize your expenses. Yeah. So like you said, he probably has a lot of material written for The Winds of Winter, and again, back to Poor Quentin and Brendan B-Fish, that whichever book you like the best, and I personally still like A Storm of Swords. That continues to be my favorite. But the writing is getting a lot better. I mean, you and I talked about this, previously. If you look at like the top-rated chapter, and I don't know how scientific this is. Again, I'm a political scientist. I'm a political scientist. I look at polling. I look at data all the time. But if you look at the top-rated chapters, there are a ton from A Dance with Dragons. Usually in a top 10 or a top 25 or whatever. So, and again, that's not scientific saying that this book is definitively better. The writing is just getting better. He wants to build upon the foundation that he laid. And so I think part of the problem that George is probably facing is he wants The Winds of Winter to be excellent. He is meticulously probably going along. He just wants it so good. And, that's probably delaying it, and we'd be happy to have it tomorrow, George, but when it comes out and it's great and it's the best yet, which I think it will be, we'll all enjoy the 7 or 8 year wait. You won't even remember it. You'll just forget about it.
Well, and I would much rather have something that took forever, that's just excellent, than just wrote it in a year, full of plot holes and all that. It's not intricate and just throwing it out. It's like hot trash.
Right.
I'd rather have I'd rather the wait. I think that's why we're all so invested in this.
Exactly. And the sad part is, like, we don't know how long it will be, but one day this is all going to end. Now that thankfully there's the prequel shows that are coming. Maybe George will, once he's done with The Dream of Spring, again, whenever that will be, he'll get to write some more Dunk and Egg books and all that. But one day this is all going to end, and it's the ending of A Song of Ice and Fire is not only going to be bittersweet, according to George, but someday this fandom is going to end as well. I think it's great that HBO is trying to keep the prequel, do a prequel series. That there's 3 or 4 others in development. So hopefully that means we're going to get Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire material for a good many years. But one day it will end, and that's sad because again, it's this interaction, it's this coming together over something you love that's really inspiring. So again, we got to respect each other. We got to enjoy this ride together. Embrace new fans. Welcome people into the community. That's important, and people have done that. That's why this is such a phenomenon, because there's so many great people that are accessible, that answer questions, that help. I mean, there are people out there that have new theories, and older fans and people who've been doing this a lot longer are encouraging them, saying, do this, write that, podcast about it, get involved. And I think that's just really a great thing. And that's what we're hoping to do here. We're really hoping to kind of become a repository for the fan community. We want to catalog, we want to document, we want to focus on this community in a different way. And you're gonna hear us obviously talk about ourselves in this first episode, but and we're gonna do a couple more episodes where we focus on some things that we like, and some episodes and some chapters that we like, and some events and characters that we like. But we want to focus on you too. We want to have you come and tell your story. We want to focus on the artwork, riddle making, and let people tell their story. I think we can have a lot of fun with this.
And we're gonna have a couple episodes coming out. Well, I mean, we're not sure the order because we might have some other stuff come up, and we just start we start writing, and then we just jump on that. But we've got a couple episodes coming out that are about a couple subjects, or about a few chapters, really. And it's more of just a exercise for me and Travis to get more used to this whole thing. So
yeah, I mean, one of the best things about this series is going back and rereading, going back and rewatching. And when you do that, especially now, like once you, again, I'm like you, I watched the show, I loved the show, but there was a point where I started to be invested in it. I started to invest in the community and in the theories and all that. And going back and rereading and rewatching, really kind of opens your third eye, three-eyed crow. It opens your third eye to some things that you overlooked, or things that you didn't get. And I think that's what's great about it. That you can go back and reread 3 or 4 times. I mean, there are people that talk all the time about rereading the series, and they just pick up on new things, and I think that's a great thing. And that's why we're so passionate about this, and we want the fans to join us and to be passionate as well, and express their ideas and how this series has inspired them. So that's my Song of Ice and Fire story. That's how I got involved. That's how I, for lack of a better term, fell in love with this book series and this TV show. And so I'm gonna stop there, because I could probably talk another hour. And I really shouldn't. And I'm gonna turn it back over to Brett. I think he's gonna tell his Song of Ice and Fire story next.
And yeah, that's gonna be. Man, I really should have opened. I should have been the warm up and just let you do it, because that was just really awesome. I hate that I have to follow that up.
You've got you've got some amazing stuff in there too. Come on.
Well, we'll see. But
yeah, okay.
Well, here's my story, and my first encounter with Planetos. It involves my dad. I think season 1 was still airing at the time, and I was living in our bachelor pad. I came home one day, and he's watching this medieval show, and I didn't recognize it. And there's some boy strapped to some big dude's back. My dad then jerks his head around, makes eye contact, and says to me, "Brett, you gotta watch this show. It's called Game of Thrones. In the first episode, this little boy climbs up a tower and catches the queen screwing her own brother. And then her brother pushes the kid out the window, but he survives. And also he's crippled now." But now I'm not sure if it was the fact that I had just made it home from work that day, or the fact I just heard my dad summarize a TV show in those exact words, using very little context. But I didn't take the bait. I didn't go for it. I wasn't interested, apparently. And to be fair, and this is where what you were talking about earlier about watching that trailer. I didn't really watch any TV series at that time, and mainly because I didn't realize these major networks were stepping up their production. You had shows like Breaking Bad around this time. I don't really know the time frame, but I wasn't watching that one either. and you had Walking Dead, of course. I'm sure there's some other ones in there that I missed. But a few years pass, and now Game of Thrones is super popular. Memes were all over the internet. A few people I knew were obsessed with it, and because of its popularity, I resisted it. I guess I'm just an against the grain type of guy. But I did this. I did the same with Lost, which I probably should have stuck to because I eventually caved, and I really, really, really hated the ending. So pretty quickly after Lost, I finally caved on watching The Walking Dead. Right as season 3 aired. I loved it, but then I had to wait a whole nother year for season 4. So at this point, Breaking Bad had ended semi-recently and ended with only 5 episodes, 10 episodes a season. And, you know, that's a lot different than Lost, where you're watching like 22 episodes a season. I didn't hear a single negative review about its ending, and so I watched it. I gave it a chance. And no spoilers, but Breaking Bad's ending, it felt complete, and I'm pretty sure everyone I've talked to about it praised it. And I think to this day, I mean, I'm sure there's some negative reviews out there, but I haven't seen any. But I'm not really in a fandom with it, so I don't know. Yeah. But hopefully the ending of Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire ends as well as that did, because it was one of those bittersweet endings, and it was kind of left ambiguous, and I really liked it. I thought it really worked. But eventually I finished Breaking Bad, and I grew tired of The Walking Dead. It was after season 3. I started season 4, the beginning of season 4 of The Walking Dead. It was about character development, but it was done in a really boring and repetitive way. So yeah, I still watch the show, but I was really uninvested, and I think with this newest season, I just completely stopped watching it. And I was loosely watching it up until then. So one day I was living with my an ex at the time, and she was working all weekend, and I was home alone, and I was bored. I didn't have anything to do, so I just decided to give Game of Thrones a chance. So I watched the first episode, witnessed the iconic Jaime and Cersei scene, and this also sounds bad out of context, but I just immediately thought of my dad. The whole conversation we had, it immediately popped back into my head. But needless to say, I know it's possible to binge watch 12 episodes of Game of Thrones in a day. However, I did almost stop watching it because, spoiler alert, Ned died. And the reason I felt this way was because TV shows always advertise as big name actors to promote their shows, and then they get rid of them like after the first season, or they die off, and then the show kind of it just doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't feel well written after that. And the others, please take me, because I was so naive, Travis. I really was. I was just a sweet, innocent little summer child with a great beard and a rocking body,
Absolutely. I have not seen your body, so I can neither confirm nor deny its existence as a rockin' body.
Don't lie to everyone. You've seen my you've seen the pictures I've sent you in the middle of the night.
Yeah. I'm a father to a 6-month-old. I go to bed at 10 and get up at 5. So there's no in the middle of the night for me.
So you're just waking up at 5 a.m. Yeah. First thing you see, it's a great image. But I feel like I had a tiny bit of patience and wisdom, because I immediately watched the next episode just to prove to myself Ned was in fact not dead. And the show spoke to me during this episode while I was staring deep into the fires of my breaking heart, trying to piece it back together. And what I heard from these flames was, "Ned's dead, baby. Ned's dead." And then the show gave me a vision of Joffrey harassing Sansa and presenting her with Ned's head on a spike.
Don't you wish she? I mean, the Hound should have just let her push him at that point. I mean, that's what she was going to do.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Joffrey was mistreated. I get that, ladies and gentlemen, but come on, just push him into this fight.
I mean, Ned would have came out alive, maybe. Oh no, he was already dead. Never mind. I don't know
He was
what I'm
already
talking
dead.
about.
Yep.
But I did see his head on the spike, and I was like, that doesn't look like his. It doesn't look like his head. But
That's
yeah,
true.
but you
Wasn't
know,
it like
I,
wasn't it like a George Bush mask, or there was like a George Bush mask used or something? That there was a bit of controversy about that.
what wasn't it one of the heads? Because there was more than
Yeah,
one, right?
that's right. I don't think it was Ned, but yeah, it was like one of the 3 or 4 that were up there. Because that the Septa Mordain was one of them up there as well.
Oh man, that poor haggard woman.
Yeah,
but but after that, I just kept binge watching as many episodes a day as I possibly could. And somewhere between season 2 and 3, I became really attached to the main characters that were left. I was really attached to Ned in the beginning, and I didn't really see Jon Snow as a main character in the first season at all. But you know, he eventually like slowly became one. I don't know. I just thought that was a really cool way. I think even the books are kind of like that, where he just doesn't seem. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I think I really have to thank the Battle of Blackwater for being so invested, because I think it was near the end of season 2 and then the beginning of season 3 that's when I really got in the show. Like before that, it was just a TV show, and I was like, should I continue watching it? Even though it had its great moments, and I could go back now and I appreciate them, those little moments, and well, even the big moments, I appreciate those so much more now. But I just wasn't paying attention as much. So,
I think
oh, go ahead.
not to stop you there, but that's to me that's one of the great things about the show and I'm sure we're going to talk about this the spectacle, if you will, that the later seasons have become. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but the first few seasons were so interesting because in a fantasy, you think about the battles, you think about the magic, you think about creatures and all that, and this was about people. This was about characters interacting, characters backstabbing each other, characters plotting and scheming, and you're right. It's those small moments that can really shape an entire episode and really make you think about this about the story in a different way. So I think you're right about that. You know, and going back and rewatching them, you pick up like, wow, there are a lot of really great scenes in this show.
Yes, and there's a lot of great scenes that are show only too, which is really, that's.
Right.
I think a lot of people forget that.
Yes. Yes.
But the thing with Battle of Blackwater too is you kind of don't really like Stannis, but you but you know that Ned sent that letter to Stannis. So and you know that and then you're rooting for Davos, but then you're also you don't want the Lannisters to win, but you don't want Tyrion to die.
Right.
So I just thought it was a really good way to pit two sides. You don't really like the Lannisters, but then you get this ominous feeling about Stannis, and you don't know which one you want to win.
Right.
And and later on, you kind of wish Stannis would have won. I mean, and in the books, like Tyrion, kind of, he goes to a dark place. If Stannis would have won, and I'm not, like, I still like him, and maybe he'll overcome, maybe Tyrion will overcome it. But if he goes to a dark place, it might have been better that Stannis would have went in there and wiped the Lannisters out. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I mean you're right. I mean that's the great thing about it. Like if one small thing changed, and obviously that's not a small thing. I mean, Stannis taking King's Landing and becoming king, or holding it for a period of time, or whatever would have happened after that.
Yeah.
But it can change so much later on. And you're right. I mean, I think the thing, and again, I'm interrupting your story here.
Oh no, that's fine. This is
The great thing about Stannis is, as as unbreakable and as unbendable as he seems, that defeat was probably good for his character because it allowed him to reset. It allowed him to refocus. He started listening to Davos more. He started, you know, thinking. I mean, he says it famously that you know he was consumed with taking the throne, taking the crown, to win the kingdom when he should have been focusing on winning the kingdom, saving the kingdom to win the crown and the throne. And I think that's just an interesting arc that he goes through. Even though, yes, I want to see Joffrey's head on a spike. I want to see Cersei's head on a spike. Absolutely. Not Tyrion's. I would have been happy if he slipped away from the battle of like Hound and.
Especially show Tyrion. He's like the voice of reason now for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah, and I'm sure that's something we'll discuss about too. That you know, Tyrion in season 7, especially in season 6. I mean, like they really missed out on some great opportunities to do some interesting stuff with his character. I mean, he just hung out in Marine and drank and told jokes, and you know, I thought it was kind of a waste. But anyways,
so skipping ahead. Because my story is becoming a little bit longer than I intended it to be. I finally make it. So I'm skipping. You know, I was shocked with Oberyn's death and some other stuff, but I'm gonna kind of skip through that because we're actually gonna do a episode next about that, and we'll talk a little bit more about the first time that we watched the episode and read the chapter and all that good stuff. But I finally make it to season 5, episode 10, after a few weeks, and Jon dies right at the end of the episode. So I'm a little shocked, but I did take note of Mel being at Castle Black. I then go to start season 6 and was super disappointed when I realized it wasn't out yet. So, because I watched seasons 1 through 5 really, really, really quickly. And I watched them all over again with my brother when I finally got him invested in the TV show. And now he's actually invested in the books. He started reading them. So he just doesn't have as much time as I do. Or not reading them. I guess Audible. I've never read the books. I've only listened to them. I hope that's not that's cheating. I do plan
that's perfectly acceptable.
I do plan on getting the books because since we're going to do this podcast thing, it's nice to just flip it open instead of having to go online and search up stuff.
Well, I probably shouldn't say this because she'll eventually listen to it. So again, I'm OCD. Our listeners can't see us, but I'm looking at the steps from our basement to see if my wife's watching because I bought the paperback versions just for note taking, and she'll kill me if she knows that I have like a digital copy, a Audible copy, a hardcover copy, and now a paperback copy. So I'll be in trouble in a few weeks when she listens.
Do you want me to cut it?
Probably. Yes, probably.
I don't know. This is kind of funny. I don't know.
It's a good story. It's a good story.
But where was I? Where was I in this?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. It's fine.
You'd watched it so quickly. So
yes.
One through.
Yes, and so luckily I only had to wait like 3 or 4 months before the new season 6 came out. I think it was somewhere. It wasn't too long.
Right.
I think either Walking Dead came out right before it aired or something, so I had that to hold me off at the time. I don't know, but this is all before I read the book, so I really started looking into these Jon Snow theories on Facebook clickbait ads and YouTube eventually, and I discovered Emergency Awesome and the Last Harpy, who does I think he just takes anybody's crazy theory and just talks about it. He doesn't. I mean, it seems like he really enjoys making his videos,
right.
And I don't think he expected his channel to blow up as much as it did, but right. I think some of the stuff is, some of those really wild and crazy theories that he talks about. And Emergency Awesome, he kind of just gives you a little synopsis and talks about it a little bit. I don't really watch a lot of his stuff anymore. Sometimes I'll do it, but
he gets a lot of cool swag that he gives away. So I think people still watch him for that. Like, comment like he does like a random draw.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
it's been so long.
Yeah,
I might have to take that back and but soon I found myself and I watched some other random YouTubers and all that stuff and soon I found myself on SoundCloud searching for podcasts, and one day I struck gold and I didn't even know it. So I started listening to a little something called the History of Westeros podcast. And I started with the show only reviews, and mainly it might have been the season 5 reviews, but it might have been the season 6 reviews. But I mean, I just really love those.
Yeah.
And then once the season had ended, and the way it did, I should say, I just needed more. So I just went on History of Westeros tangent. I didn't even care about book spoilers because I just never thought I'd actually ever read them. And technically I'm correct, I haven't read them yet, but I've only Audible. But then that opened my eyes to some incredibly interesting characters and plot lines that were book material only. And in this journey of discovery I was having at the time, I came across the podcasts Radio Westeros and Lucifer Means Lightbringer. And I think I even heard Poor Quentin on some, and Brendan Beefish, and you know, and a lot of these podcasters I listen to now, they were all featured on History of Westeros. Now, what really sold me on picking up the books was obviously a combination of all these various podcasters just picking apart the series in their own unique way and exposing different things about the book and just doing what they do best. Some focus on lore, some focus on politics, symbolism, you know, just any of that. And there's just so many parts of the book you can just focus on. And right. I just, that was really cool. And they all had their own different styles of podcasting. Like Radio Westeros is like really detailed because it's just fully scripted, and that's cool. I'd have a hard time doing it, but they somehow just nail it and they can make it work.
Yeah, I mean it's such a high production level, and that's not to say other podcasts aren't great, but they do it in. I mean they have a great title. I mean it's like a radio program. It's like an old, you know, 1940s, 50s radio program, 30s, 40s, 50s radio program. I mean, it's done very well.
Yes.
Those guys, I say guys. I don't mean any disrespect when I say that. I'm from West Virginia. I'm from West Virginia. That's just what we say. But Lady Gwyn and Yoke Boy are amazing. Like what they do is just astonishing. Yeah, but history, all of them, History of Westeros. You're right. We've got a lot of great people in this community that are creating some really, really amazing podcasts and videos and essays.
And don't worry, we'll name drop some, you know, probably like 10 more podcasters as this goes on. But I mean, it's about the fans and you know they are what keeps it going too. I mean, you know, obviously, people that aren't doing podcasts do too, but you know, this keeps me entertained and keeping me thinking about it, is all these podcasters doing this. I remember finally making the decision to pick up the books after I listened to the Euron episode of History of Westeros podcast, and it's still to this day my absolute favorite episode they've put out. I even went back today and listened to it just to see if it still rings true, and it does. And I didn't remember this, but poor Quentin helped write it, and he was in it. So I thought that was pretty cool.
He's a big Euron Greyjoy fan, I think.
And I mean that it was just so cool because I had never considered Krakens in it until after that, and I was like, oh my god, I need to know what's in this book. So, and that was, you know, last summer, and I know like that's not a very long time, but since I started, I've just every day, just at least a podcast, if not like three or four. And just, I wanted to know more. So I actually finished the audiobooks pretty, like really quickly, like within a month and a half, maybe a month. I don't remember the exact time frame, but I think it was right before season 7 came out because I took a break from all the podcasts and I just started listening to the audiobooks. So when I came back to them, I had all this, new stuff to catch up on, and then, the season 7 predictions of History of Westeros and all that cool stuff. So I was able to get all that beforehand, and then I was able to, watch, the episode by episode reviews right after they came out. So it was really cool. And after I finished the books, I just couldn't shut up about them. I still can't, but more importantly, I wanted to know more about the story and where it's potentially going, and I still want to know more. And this is a reason I want to do this podcast because it's really motivating. I've already learned a lot, just looking, just having to working on these upcoming episodes and stuff like that. Like I've already put in probably like 10 hours of research just and listening to podcasters talk about these chapters I'm reading and going through the show. And so I continued, and I still continue to listen to History of Westeros, Radio Westeros, and Lucifer Means Lightbringer. And I've went through every single episode that was out. So I had to branch out because, there were some days I was like, oh, I've already listened to this episode like 3 times. and I really need something new. So it wasn't too long ago. I was listening to LML, and he mentioned Brendan B. Fish and Poor Quentin were starting a reread cast. So and that that was a few months ago, right? So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Not too long ago.
yeah, so I really liked them and all of the History of Westeros podcasts that they did, and of course Poor Quentin. I know helped write the Euron episode, so that persuaded me to listen to their cast.
Yeah.
So through Not a Cast, I found Davos Fingers, thanks to B Fish because he mentioned it was his favorite podcast, and soon after I found Maester Monthly because they had Eliana on there, and then A Song of Ice and Fire, and then
I have not listened to that yet, but I'm
yeah,
very excited to listen to it at some point.
I am kind of disappointed that that they're not as sloppy as they should be. Because none of them seem super sloppy. I was hoping, it's just a little bit of sloppiness.
They're right proper drunks, right?
I feel like I'd just be too sloppy, but
Yeah.
but then Game of Owns and then finally Girls Gone Canon. That was all.
Yeah.
Those were all semi recently.
Right. Yeah, I mainly listen like either driving to and from work or at work. Like I told you, if I'm able to like be working on a memo or a document or something. My favorite place to listen to podcasts is mowing and weed eating. Like we don't have a huge yard, but it takes a little bit of time for me to mow and weed eat, and I just like being out, working outside, just to kind of reset myself and focus on that. Like I told you, my neighbors probably think I'm crazy, where I'm just like laughing or I'm like, oh, I didn't get that. Oh, I never thought of that. I'm sure they're just like, this guy's nuts.
Well, that's pretty much my story. I mean, I didn't include I didn't include that I listened to one of the History of Westeros podcast. I think it was around, I forget, maybe October when they started the Facebook group. I think
when they started the what?
The Facebook group. I think.
Oh yeah.
I think it was in October. I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's when I joined. I joined that like pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, that's been a fairly recent thing, right? Their Facebook group.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
I do remember that. That was sometime last year, sometime late last year, I think, maybe in the fall or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think Aziz was doing his birthday. He was doing like a birthday live stream or something. But
Yeah. That's right. I think that's right.
maybe.
Well, and you forgot. I mean, you ended your Song of Ice and Fire story with putting out a call to start a podcast. I mean, that's a pretty good. I mean, obviously we talked about that.
Yes, yes. Well,
I'm teasing you like that. That's a pretty monumental thing.
Well, I didn't really know how to. I did cut some stuff out of the story, like the beginning. I didn't really know because it's kind of two different stories. I didn't want people to get the wrong idea that I've been because I had been wanting to start a podcast for a few years now, but
right.
And it wasn't just this; it was just something I've always been interested to do, but I didn't know like if I could. I just didn't know if I could do or if I could even do it or be entertaining and just talk a lot and like Aziz from History of Westeros can just I mean he could talk through the whole episode and it's entertaining and I was like I can't do that like
Yeah.
I need to bounce off I work better bouncing off
Yeah.
someone
Yeah,
so.
I like the and again, like these people are amazing. I like the just sitting down and having a conversation and seeing not seeing where it leads, but in the end seeing where it leads because you make a point, I make a point, and we just kind of go down a path together. And I think that's what's great about this. I mean, you get onto so many events and characters, and it's just a great way to talk about this series.
It's so far we haven't disagreed on anything so
We,
I can't wait till the day. So then we can make some good points.
we might. I don't know what you feel about the Greyjoys. We might disagree.
Do
You like?
I like them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Well,
say that I don't.
I
I
really
say that.
like Euron Greyjoy, and I'm starting to come around on Victarion,
Yeah.
and even Aeron
Yeah.
a little bit. I mean,
Oh God. Okay. Well, there's where we disagree.
well, the only reason I say even him a little bit is because he's getting tortured, and
Right.
he won't break. Like he's not losing his faith. Like he
Right.
won't.
Well, and his faith keeps him alive, keeps him going. I mean, he was obviously molested by Euron,
Yeah,
uh, tortured. I mean, not just tortured now, but tortured as a child, and so that's the only thing he really has. But here's the thing.
other than
Probably,
that, other than that though,
probably,
I'm like, ugh.
yeah,
But
yeah. Oh no, I agree. Like the person that like I hear a lot of people say like, well, I hate this character, I hate that character. Yeah, there's some that you're definitely um, supposed to probably dislike. Um, but even the characters that like I just said, I don't really like Aaron Greyjoy. But he's
yeah,
an
yeah.
interesting character. Like he's gonna have an interesting arc. He's gonna be part of something, absolutely insane if the Eldritch apocalypse, if poor Quentin's theories are true. And by the way, I'm totally down for Krakens from the deep rising to destroy the Red Wine fleet.
Oh yes.
I don't know why this is I don't even know why I'm saying this. Like I really like Paxter Redwine. I have no idea why. I don't even remember him in the books. Um, but I just think it's I like fleets. I'm happy with I would be happy commanding a large ships. I don't know why, but I think it would be fun. But I also want to see him crashing into those Greyjoy longship or those Ironborn longships, and then these fucking tentacles just coming out of nowhere and just tearing shit down.
And you think those
Um,
missing ships are going to come up from behind and trap them in that little strait?
yeah,
And then
I,
as
I
there's dead bodies in the water, the Krakens are going to come up or something.
there's dead bodies in the water. The bows of the ships are not bow, but bowels
Yeah.
are filled with people. that are probably going to be sacrificed in some way to, yeah, and I don't remember who said this. It may have not been someone on a podcast. It may have been someone on Reddit, but it's kind of a reverse, not a reverse. It's doing to the red wines, catching them in the red wine straits, what Stannis did to them, did to the Ironborn during the Greyjoy Rebellion, like catching them unawares and trapping them.
Yeah.
And then cutting them apart. But here's the thing, like, and this may have been poor Quentin talking about this, like, if does he have the ability to control these if the Krakens are coming, does he have the ability to control them? Like, can he direct them towards specific ships, or is he just chaos is great, just let him come, let him tear everything up, like, or is he like doing a mass sacrifice to like the Great Other, or I don't know. It's just that's going to be a very fascinating chapter.
Yes.
and arc in Old Town and around Old Town.
My specific thought is I don't think he does have control, and he's going to sacrifice some of his ships. There's going to be a big thing. They're going to trap it. They're going to trap everyone. There's going to be blood, and then. But then again, right. I mean, he is. I mean, isn't he he's a green seer, right? So, or he could possibly be one. So then there's again, yeah. So
right, there's that speculation based on his. Does he say it to Victarion, where he says, when I was a boy, I dreamed I could fly, and when I woke up.
Yes, yeah, I think it was Victarion.
When I woke up, I realized I couldn't. But then he says something like, "But what if I could?"
Yeah.
And so there's that speculation that the Three-Eyed Crow had contacted him at one point, because he tells Bran, there were many more before you.
Which, if you haven't listened to the Year On episode of History of Westeros, highly recommend it. Really good.
I'm pretty sure that I have, but I'm definitely going to go and download it and re-listen to it again because I think this is where I first heard this whole Eldritch Apocalypse, what was going to happen in Old theory. But yeah, I'm going to go back and listen to that because I'm really invested in what happens at the Battle of Ice in the north with Stannis and everything. But I would also say the Battle of Blood, as I think someone refers to it, the Battle of Old Town, between the Greyjoys and the Red Ones is just as interesting or as important. I mean, they're all important. The Battle of Green, the Battle of Fire, however you call it, and then the other one that people don't. But this was an early. This was an early introduction to Beefish. He was talking about the Westerosi, what does he call it? It's a French and English battle. Is it Agincourt? Basically, it's
I don't know.
All right, I'm gonna have to look this up. So we might have to edit this around a little bit, but so this is where Battle of Agincourt. So basically, here Agincourt. Okay, we're definitely gonna have to clean that up. So this was an early introduction to Beefish's writing, where I'm pretty sure it was Beefish. He wrote about the Westerosi Agincourt, and Agincourt was a battle between the English and the French. I think in the 1400s, maybe early 1500s, but basically, and the numbers are a little iffy. There are some historians who say the numbers were more equal. There were some, and it depends on which historians you listen to. The English historians will say that the English were greatly outnumbered. The French.
I remember this now. I remember him talking about it.
So it's the longbowmen. It's where the English really came into their power because they just decimated a huge force of French cavalry and infantry, which the French were very famous for. And these longbowmen just basically, I think it was kind of a three-sided valley, and they just decimated these French troops with the longbows. And so Beefish wrote this essay talking about that he thinks that's going to repeat itself at Storm's End, or somewhere around there between the Golden Company and the Tyrells, because I think it's John Connington's chapters in A Dance with Dragons. It's been raining in the Stormlands, like just constantly raining. The mud is thick, and that was a pivotal point in the French defeat at Agincourt, because their horses and their men were just tripping over each other, and some of them, I mean, it's really tragic. Some of them just drowned in mud.
Oh,
and yeah, the English bowmen just decimated them. So he kind of thinks that, again, we've got the Battle of Ice and the Battle of Fire in Marine. We've got the Battle of Blood at Old Town. People kind of call this, I think some people call this the Battle of Steel, but I've heard it called the Battle of Mud. That that the Golden Company and Aegon or Fagon are just going to decimate the Tyrells and potentially see the Randall Tarley turn on the Tyrells there. I think Randall Tarley is on his way there. I think he's left King's Landing. But anyways,
that'd be interesting.
But that's a very fascinating. And what's interesting, I was gonna point out another podcast, not a Song of Ice and Fire podcast, but BBC Radio has a podcast called In Our Time. And there's science, there's history, there's all this stuff, but I listened to the history one, and what I really like about it is they talk about these battles, they talk about these kings and queens, they talk about emperors, they talk about the expansion of empires, they talk about events, like there's one on the Black Dinner, which is the Scottish event that inspired the Red Wedding. And the host, I think his name is Melvin Bragg, he's a pretty famous British journalist and personality. He loves Game of Thrones because he's obsessed with history and sees Game of Thrones as, really pulling on those historical events, those historical elements, and adapting them. But I would also recommend that to everyone. And they're like 45 minute, 50-minute episodes. Plus, I just like to listen to upper class British accents and war and everything. It's just fascinating. So.
We're gonna have to like list like 50 different podcasts, like just in case, and in the future or something, like, oh yeah, here they all are.
Yeah. Here's all of the podcasts we may or may not reference.
Yeah, I'll just put them in the description every time.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's you're right. I mean, and what's interesting about the to jump back onto the Winds of Winter, the Battle of Fire in Marine and the Battle of Ice in the North were pulled. I think George said that he was going to end A Dance with Dragons with those two battles, and obviously had to pull them. This is something Beefish found out that or theorized, and then it came true by George's comment that he had every intention of ending A Dance with Dragons with the Battle of Fire, Marine, and the Battle of Ice in the North, but he just hadn't completed it. He didn't have it fully written, and that was part of the reason that it was cut, which is interesting because I wonder if some of the initial reaction to A Dance with Dragons, some people, I think, when they first read A Dance with Dragons, they didn't like it. I mean, there's still a debate between some people over whether it's a good book or not. But I wonder if it had ended with those two battles, would it be looked upon as initially there would have been a better reaction to it.
I probably, but I was already kind of pre-warned when I went into it. Like,
right.
This isn't, it slows down and it's more about, the aftermath and stuff. So I was pre-warned, so I kind of expected it, but I could see what some people being disappointed and how there's not really any huge battles and it's all kind of leading up to the next book, and then of course it's been how many years, and yeah, I could see a little bit of just like irritation there,
right.
but it was a really good book. I mean, both of them. So
oh yeah, definitely. And just imagine how the Winds of Winter are going to start. I mean, is going to start. He says I'm gonna start with two major battles, the Battle of Ice and the Battle of Fire. I mean, and then we're talking about the Battle of Blood. We're talking about what's going to happen at Old Town. We're talking about will something at Storm's End or between the Golden Company and the Tyrells. I mean, there's going to be some epic chapters.
Oh yeah, I mean,
in the Winds of Winter. Plus, whatever happens with the White Walkers and all the other characters, ladies. I mean, it's just again, I just think it's going to be the best book yet, and I need to stop telling myself that because I don't want to be disappointed.
I don't think you'll be disappointed at all. I mean,
no, not at all.
I think it'll be hard. I think it'll be. I don't know. I just don't see it happening. But
right.
Crossing my fingers, but
absolutely. So, one thing I want to say about your story, your Song of Ice and Fire story, is it's especially your introduction is really personal. I like that. And there are a lot of people I think that are introduced to the show or this book by someone screaming, "You gotta fucking watch this!" Like this is, and I know you maybe your dad didn't say the F word, but
he probably did. He probably did. But knowing him,
you meet people, you talk to people, and they're like, "This is the craziest shit I've ever seen." Like, you've got to sit down and watch that, and so I really liked that was your introduction to the show. That you're seeing it on TV and you're like, what the hell is that?
Oh yeah, my dad was so excited about this show, and but he never watched more than one episode. He just only watched that first episode and was just like, fanatic about it. But yeah, he never picked it back up. And because when I first started watching the show, getting really into it, I tried like, hey Dad, like. I finally started watching it. He's like, "Oh yeah, I never watched any more than that." I'm like, "You have HBO?" So yeah, but I told him he was gonna be in my story for this. So he was like, I might pick it up again, or start watching it again.
He's in for like if he thinks that was. Insane. Imagine what he's going to think with some of the other stuff that happens.
Yeah, I just can't wait for him to tell me he likes Ned Stark.
Yeah.
That's
the best part. Yeah. I had a coworker who started watching the show. This was a few years ago. But they were like, "Oh, that's Boromir. That's the guy from Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I love him in Patriot Games. Woo, he's like one of my favorite actors." He's like, "He's dead." What happened? And then of course I had to point out, if you like Sean Bean, I mean, he pretty much dies in everything that he's in. So, you should have known this.
He doesn't die. Anyway. He doesn't die in that one NASA movie that he's in. What's that? I forget what it is. Is it? What is it? There's some NASA movie. I think.
Oh, the Martian.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just. Yeah, he's just.
Yeah, I think there was like a collective groan, not a groan of disappointment, but like a collective groan of like, oh, is this guy gonna like blow up in a space shuttle or?
Is he gonna go on a rescue mission and then just go
Right, and then
horribly?
die.
I watched what was it recently? Black Death with him in it.
Yeah. I like that
He
movie.
dies
Yeah,
horribly in that too.
he does.
I
And
guess
it's got
spoiler alert. Spoiler
yeah,
alert.
spoiler alert. It's got Melisandre in it.
Yes.
Um, and I don't know this for sure, but I want to say maybe her work in that film um like jumped out at the showrunners as
I could definitely see that. Yeah.
yeah, because she's
The same
she doesn't
character.
have right, it's the same character. She doesn't have the red hair or anything like that, but she's this very stoic, mysterious um person who's playing a game and controlling a group of people um and yeah, no, it's the same character and she's really good in. I mean, she's good in really anything she's in, but
And
um
Ned Stark. Sorry if we spoiled him dying, but that's not really the main point of it all. And he's not a very likable character in this movie.
no, he's not. I mean, you can tell he's done well, he does, but you can tell he's done some really terrible things, which is obviously par for the course in medieval setting, and especially with what people back then thought. They had some
Yeah.
crazy ideas about the world. Um, so, so in your story, you obviously bring up some other fandoms, some other shows. Breaking Bad was one of the best shows ever.
Yes, I
And
love that show.
do you watch Better Call Saul?
I need to because Saul was my favorite character, and
So,
I think I love season 1, and I'm on season 2, and I never finished it, and then I fell behind, and I never caught back up. But I
yeah,
need to go back through and
yeah,
rewatch
yeah.
them.
You gotta catch up, like, because it was one of the shows that I was like, really? I mean, how are they going to do a spinoff of Breaking Bad? Like, that doesn't even make sense. And like Lindsay and I are like watch it, like it's one of our favorite shows because it's done so well. I mean, they have they've taken that character, which was obviously a very interesting. Like, unlike you, he was one of my favorite um, from Breaking Bad,
Yes.
and they've done especially the dynamic with his brother.
God,
Um,
God, he's a dick.
he's a dick. Oh, just wait until you see what they do to each other. I think it's in season. It's. I mean, you're just like you see it coming in a way, but oh my god, it's like the craziest thing ever, and it's so good. I mean, like they have like that again. There's a lot that I don't compare Game of Thrones. I think it's like we've talked. It's above a lot, but the character work on Better Call Saul is probably the best in my opinion. Um, of those type of shows.
Yes,
Yeah, but you brought up Lost, so I want to talk just a minute about Lost because um, I'm like you that was all.
You know where they should have ended it? Season 3. The season 3 finale is where it should have ended. Left it ambiguous. They got off the island,
Oh yeah.
and
Well,
and
and that's part of like what I want to talk about that. Like I'll be honest, the Lost finale gave me this might be finally where we disagree. Like I had an emotional payoff for the finale. Like I was moved by it. I felt I did okay. In retrospect,
I mean, it was a nice ending, but
it was a nice ending. But this is what I want to talk about and you know and I know we're going to talk about this more. Like I can kind of see potentially something like this happening with Game of Thrones. And the reason I say that is what is important in what was important in Lost? Was it the characters and um, to steal a phrase from that George uses, the human hearts in conflict, was that the characters and their interactions. That's kind of the ending we got.
Yes, yeah.
Or was it the mysteries, the puzzle boxes that had been laid that weren't answered? And that was very frustrating. Like, because
yes.
one, the showrunners of Lost, did themselves a disfavor by saying you're going to have answers by the end of this series. And the last, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, well, what really rubbed me the wrong way though is come to find out they were just making it making stuff up episode by episode, and so they didn't really have a plan for any of this stuff, and right. I don't even think they imagined an ending. So
right.
So with that being, Breaking Bad did the same thing though. They were making stuff up each episode, but for some reason they nailed it. I don't know how. Like, I guess because I don't know. I don't know how it could have went horribly, really, really quickly, but.
It absolutely could have. I'll have to find it. Someone does a nice analysis of why Vince Gilligan and his creative team were able to achieve the best results by, just blindly trying things. I don't remember. There's a specific way this person. I'll find this video.
Okay.
Specific way this person describes it that I was like, oh, that's very interesting. But you're right. I mean, I definitely wanted more answers with, like, to me, and again, I had an emotional payoff with the characters and the way it ended, but the last 2 seasons felt really rushed. The final 2 seasons felt really rushed, and it wasn't just rushed in the sense that they were wrapping up all of these character arcs and all of these plots and events, but they started introducing new things. I mean, in that final season, they had like a whole new community, like a temple, and you're like, where did this come from? Like, why are you introducing this? Like, now I want to know who these people are and what's going on there. And then the smoke monster kills all of them, and our heroes flee, and it wasn't satisfying in that regard. I do think the characters paid off.
Yeah. I agree. I agree with that.
But man, at its pinnacle, like that, those first 3-4 seasons, there was that one lag. I think it was the beginning of season 3 that hit a real lag where Jack was a prisoner of the others and he was operating.
I think it's season
forever.
No, season. I don't know. It's been so long, but I think it was season 4.
Okay. Well, yeah, that was a definite lag to me. Like, how much longer can we be operating on this person? But that show was so fucking clever. Like, you didn't know what to expect. And I actually remember when it first. I was living in Dublin, Ireland. I was studying there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, one of my semesters in college, and I don't remember if it just wasn't on TV there. No one there had picked it up. I'm not sure. And I came back to like this phenomenon, and people were like, "Oh my God, you got to watch the show!" And I actually had to. I don't remember how I did it. I don't remember if I bought the DVDs and caught up before season 2 started. I actually think I watched Lost season 2, like the first episode, and was like, what the hell's going on? And so I had to go back and watch everything. But yeah, I mean, it was the Game of Thrones of its time. It was.
Yeah, I remember. I remember I had I was playing on like an MLG team with some friends from when I was still in high school, and my friend would have to, because we'd practice, and we ended up we finally went to an event and got our butts kicked because we had never played at an actual event. So like we did great online, but then when we got there, we just choked. But he would get off of offline. Was it Sunday nights at 9 when it premiered? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would always get off. He's like, oh, my show's on. We either had to get on before and play
Right.
for a while, or get on after, or
Or
just take a
after.
break.
Yeah.
But it became part of our schedule. Like, oh yeah, he gets
Right.
off at 9, he's back on at 10.
Yeah. And that's it. And I bring that up because that was one of my favorite shows. And occasionally I'll go back and watch like 2 or 3 episodes of Lost here and there just to kind of relive that magic, or try to look at it through a different lens or whatever. But um, again, there were definite expectations with what was going to be resolved with the show. Like, people felt, oh, this is going to be important. They're speculating on this, um, and I do kind of think, and obviously I want your take on it, that what will that happen with the final season of Game of Thrones? Are people speculating so much? Are people expecting too much? You know, for me personally, I don't think Game of Thrones has created this dichotomy or this conflict in this is a show about people and characters versus this is a show about mystery and puzzle boxes and all the answers that you like. Lost did that. Unfortunately built that on itself. I think Game of Thrones has done a very good job of focusing on characters and their arcs, but weaving in those mysteries and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
let's face it, there's going to be a lot of things that aren't explained because I think
I mean,
George is going to say George is going to say, that's not important for people to know. I don't want people to know which god is right or which religion is right
or if they even exist in his
right,
world. Yeah,
right,
but
right.
but yeah, I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Because
Yeah,
I
I
think
agree with
I
you.
think he gave away, at least an idea of what the ending is gonna be or how it's gonna end. So I think, and of course the show already has, like, they've completely, like, written off certain things that were kind
Right,
of in the first 3 seasons, and like just
right,
little, you could see like little, subplots kicking in, but then they just kind of forgot about them just to condense the show a little better. But I yeah, I don't think that would be a huge issue.
yeah. No, I agree with you. It's just going to be interesting to see what the reactions are and what the ending is. It Who knows? And I think that idea of what the ending of Game of Thrones is going to be is helps us transition to um, talking about HBO's recent announcement about their prequel series. Um, Now
Yes.
we know that this has been announced a year or so ago that they were developing a number of prequels. I think at one time they had four going. And then they upped it to five. So now they've greenlit one. So one is going to pilot. That doesn't mean the series is going to take off. The pilot could be disastrous. People could leave. Whatever. But they're greenlighting. They greenlit one. So there's a good chance this is probably picked up. There's a according to George, there's a good chance that other uh, pilots are going to be greenlit, and we could have more series down the road. And I think George recently said that actually one of the five has been shelved for whatever reason. He didn't disclose that.
Hmm.
But one of the things I want to focus on with this is how do we think and we'll call it the long night. I think that's what people are referring to this prequel as. How does it tie to either Game of Thrones proper? I think we know that answer. I think we'll talk about that. I think that's probably an easy answer. But how's it going to maybe tie into the final season, maybe even the finale, the series finale? So I want to read. I'm sorry. Did you
Oh,
say
oh,
something?
no. I was just
Okay.
thinking. Yeah, you good.
Yeah. So I want to read the uh, the description that HBO released about it, and then let's talk about this, because I think this is a really fascinating choice that they made. And have you listened to the most recent Maester Monthly?
Yes.
They talked about. Okay.
Yes,
So that's good.
And yeah, and they were saying it could just be like a pitch, pretty much.
Right.
It may not be that description, but yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. It's important. Yeah, it's important for everyone to remember that there are entertainment companies have vast marketing departments. That's what they're doing. They're trying to sell a product to you. So some of this is written in such a way that teases you, entices you, gets you to want it. So it could be overly descriptive. It could be exactly what's going to be focused on. But here's what it says.
So take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, a grain of salt. And I was going to say a shot of tequila, but that doesn't really go. I mean, obviously, do go together.
They do. Anyways, go together. You need a lime,
well. Although I'm not a fan. Like margaritas, I don't like salt around the edge of my glass of margarita. I don't want that.
Tequila is my favorite drink of choice, but without the salt. I love the lime though. I love the lime.
I definitely love tequila, but I'm partial to either bourbon or rum.
Yeah.
So I don't drink any of it.
Yeah. I don't complain either.
I don't give a shit. Just give me a drink. I'm fine. I also like. This is completely sidetracked, but so in one of my previous jobs, I worked with a huge group of people. But there was this older lady that worked on my team, and she and her husband were both retired, and they kind of worked in politics and government just as a hobby. And they were pretty well to do. They had no children, but man, they lived and died by their 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. cocktail. Like whatever you were doing, they were like, got to be home for this cocktail. And I was just like, this is like my grandparents, or something you'd see like on Mad Men, like people like, oh, come home and immediately take a drink. I was always fascinated by that. And anytime we would have like an event in their area, they would have the staff over, like, cocktail, and it's 4:30. Okay, yeah, I'll do it. So my mother-in-law makes this thing called a gin bucket. And I don't know what all's in it. I mean, it's kind of like a margarita. I mean, I know there's a vast difference between tequila and gin, but it's very it's very sweet, and I think it has some ginger beer, maybe. But like, this drink is so good, and we'll make it. She makes it around the holidays, like at Christmas time. And I remember. I was so pissed. So this was around Christmas. All of my wife's family was in, and I had to work. Like, I had to drive. They live near us now, but we lived in a different city at the time, and I had to drive like 2 hours back to our house because I had to work. It wasn't on Christmas, but it was like before Christmas or right after Christmas or something. And everyone was having a drink, this gin bucket drink, and I was so pissed because I had to go to work the next day, and so I had to leave at like 9:30 to get back, and I could have nothing to, and it was really frustrating.
Yes, that's always super disappointing.
Yeah, look that up, gin bucket. It's a pretty good recipe.
I might have to try it.
So back to the law. So here's the description of and again, we're taking this with a grain of salt. We don't know if it's completely accurate. This is a marketing department that wrote this, but here's what it says. Set thousands of years before the events of Throne, the project chronicles the world's descent from the golden age of heroes into its darkest hour.
Okay.
Only one thing is for sure. From the horrifying secrets of Westeros' history The True Origin of the White Walkers, The Mysteries of the East, and the Starks of Legend. It's not the story we think we know. Now, I think that's really interesting. Again, this could all be a way to entice you ready for, but it's not the story we think we know. Now they're talking about the true origin of the White Walkers. Well, I thought we got their origin story in season 6, where the children of the forest tell Bran sees the vision of them shoving the obsidian dagger.
Yeah.
Who the fans call Todrick Stark. I don't know if you know. That's a thing.
I heard Maester Monthly. I think it was Joe Magician talking about it. I had no idea what it. Where that came from.
I fell into a rabbit hole like one day where they were just back and forth on this picture of Todrick Stark. It was like, this guy's name's Todrick Stark. I was like, how do they know this? Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I think obviously there's a lot open to interpretation in all of this, because we're not just talking about history here. We're talking about prehistory. We're talking about thousands of years before the events of Game of Thrones. Like, I think of our own world history. That we know very little about. We think we know, and maybe it's right, but the Westerosi are obviously very similar. That stories were passed down orally, then they were set in like stones or tablets or cave paintings or whatever, and then as society progressed, it became there was uniform writing, there was myth making, there were people who traveled to tell stories. But the one difference is, the Westerosi, so we think, have kind of been stuck in a medieval rut, if you will, potentially thousands of years.
Yes.
So what do and that could obviously be for a number of reasons. One in particular, the seasons that just devastate them when it's winter, and don't allow them to progress. But that's just very interesting that we're going to explore some of that. And I think it was on the Maester Monthly podcast. I think it was Eliana said, Glass Table Girl said, it's interesting, why does George want this explored? And the question I would pose is there going to be something in the final season or the final episode that that is going to really link back to this prequel series? Like, you're going to be like, whoa, why did that happen? Why did they do that? Why did the White Walker? Why did Jon and Daenerys make that decision? Why did the war end this way? Like, you think there's a link that's going to come there, or is it just that the White Walkers are in this and that's the link?
It does seem like an odd choice for them to choose the Age of Heroes. But I mean, I guess it would have to be. It would just have to. Yeah, I guess it would. There's got to be maybe something. Maybe there's some sort of twist at the end of, because the thing about good writing is, once you answer once you answer a mystery or solve a mystery, you kind of present another one. And right. maybe they might do that at the end of season 8, just so everybody's wondering and trying to speculate, and then that way, once this this spinoff comes out, it'll people will already be interested because they're already talking about it, and something weird happened, and they're like, and then if they market it as you'll find out more through this new series, then right. it instantly has a following, right? And it's already going to instantly have a following,
right?
But it might have a bigger following, and if they do it right, I mean, it could be potentially bigger than Game of Thrones, but
Right.
which is hard to do. I mean, I don't necessarily see it being bigger. I hope it is, but that way it just, the hype doesn't die down or anything like that. But
Right. Well, and I think this is Joe Magician's, and if it's not, it was someone on the recent Maester Monthly podcast that focused on this announcement. You're right. This is a very interesting choice that they made. But I think it was Joe or Matt. His actual name is Matt. Joe Magician said that this allows them such creative leniency that we might think we know what the story is, but we don't. It also gives them the ability to create new characters within this. I mean, we might not focus on the Walkers or the Starks or whomever. There might be just a completely new set of characters that are going through this. But one of his main points with all this is we know, like, I would absolutely love to see a Dance of the Dragons prequel, but we know that history. Like, we know pretty much every detail based on the Princess and the Queen novella. There's another novella that I think is the Prince, and whatever is going to come out in these Targaryen history books, Fire and Blood. Like, we know those details.
Yeah.
And well, of course we knew the details of A Song of Ice and Fire. I mean, obviously it's complete, but
and also the production cost of, they already have a hard time affording these dragons, and you got to think maybe this audience is going to be smaller. So
that's a good point.
I mean, there's a good chance it's going to be smaller because it's a spinoff. But I mean,
Right.
you hope for it to be bigger, but realistically, probably smaller. And then if you do Dance of the Dragons, you have. I mean, there was probably there's more than 3 dragons in that. I'm sure, right?
Right. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know how many they start off with, but this is just a guesstimate. But I think there are 12 named dragons in those novellas. So, and obviously that's the reason that the Targaryens start to lose their power, because that conflict was, so brutal on the realm and the family itself, but it killed a lot of dragons. They were left with, very few after that. But you're right. I mean, that to have a meta conversation, is this prequel going to have the budget that season 8 of Game of Thrones does? Probably not. I mean, they're going to have to prove themselves. So you're right. A production could be like, well, you're going back to season 2's budget, or you're going back to season 3 or 4's budget. You don't have the money, so they couldn't do a Dance with Dragon or a Dance of Dragons or Aegon's Conquest or something like that. It would just be too much.
Which
production-wise.
I assume they'll go back to like season 3 or 4 production value or production.
Yeah, they're not going back to season 1 or 2, but you're right. They're.
It's.
But.
I mean, it would be crazy though if they gave them the full budget of Game of Thrones. I doubt it though. I doubt they will.
But that's the thing. Like, there's LML who speculates this. He has I think it's his theory. He has a theory that there's the Great Empire of the Dawn, which was a huge empire in Essos. I'm pretty sure it predates the Valyrians. I mean, it definitely predates the Valyrians. What am I talking about? But he's, there's all these things in Westeros that, people don't know how they got there. There's the Black Rock that's the basis of the High Tower on the Battle Isle.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
In Old Town. And why is it called Battle Isle? There's really no battle being fought there. There's the oily stone at Moat Cailin. There's the stone that makes up does it make up the Sea Stone chair?
Yeah. It's got
Yeah.
yeah. It's
So, right, and there's all these different things. So, was there this huge empire that like once spanned the globe of Planetos? And so LML, when this announcement was made, LML responded like "Great Empire of the Dawn." Now, to me, that's a huge production. I mean, obviously we
yeah,
don't know what Great Empire of the Dawn looked like and all the technology it had and stuff, but that's a big production if that's the case. But
yeah,
I tend to think that this prequel is going to be kind of narrow at first, kind of like a Game of Thrones, kind of like Game of Thrones. It's gonna build characters. It's gonna build out to this massive world, these massive events.
yes. And I kind of
So
hope it doesn't expose like everything. Like I hope like whoever it was on Maester Monthly, I can't remember which one of them it was, but they were talking about how might follow just or they want it to follow a random character.
yes,
And then
yes,
they kind of just run into these legendary figures as they go along. But maybe some of them are already established, or maybe they're not established. Maybe they're not even named that. And there's kind of little hints there, but it
right.
doesn't give the whole thing away to where there's still some mystery. Because I do like the mystery that what if because they're just legends. So
Right, right, and I think that's a great, going back, and I like that. I like that. Yeah, I'm like you. I hope they don't answer all the mysteries and the legends because it, kind of cheapens. Um, it kind of cheapens the. Um, it cheapens that um, that those myths and legends and ancient epics that are really foundational to their society, just like our own. I mean, imagine, one example that I can think of in our own world is, this great flood myth. Um,
oh yeah, yeah,
that very central. It's very central to um, you know Judaism and Christianity and Islam. Obviously, those three religions descend from uh, the same um, the same person. I think it's Abraham.
Abraham,
Um,
yeah,
yeah. So again, uh, uh, that's a flood myth that has been passed down for thousands of years. Now, the interesting thing is there are other cultures and other religions that have a flood myth. The Chinese have a very strong flood myth. Native Americans have a flood myth. So you think about it in the context of, did a flood once cover the earth? It probably didn't cover the entire part of the earth where humans probably would be dead.
yeah,
Um, but how did that tale spread? Like, was there a huge flood that everyone saw and they tried to localize it? They tried to say, well, this is God who sent this flood and he commanded Noah to build the ark and he saved the world. I don't know what the Native Americans and the Chinese believe, but they probably have their own local legend of what happened with that. Or was this an event that occurred in the Middle East or in China or something, and then spread and then became adapted? People adapted it to their own history and their own culture. Like I think that's
yes,
just that fascinating way of trying to understand like what do these legends really mean?
yes.
Um,
Yeah, I mean and then maybe you could look into those and then figure out what what exactly they were, what where they're coming from religious wise, and stuff like that.
right, right. And I think it was I think it was Radio West that talked about something similar to this on one of their most recent episodes. I think it was Legends of the East, maybe. Um, but they're talking about the context of Azor Ahai and the Last Hero, and again, and again, we're talking about the Long Night here. Did the Long Night cover Planetos, or was it a Westerosi event that then spread, or was it an event that happened in the East and then spread to Westeros. The
Yeah.
tale West. And so it's just really fascinating.
I was going to say, it reminds me, and this is something I don't like, that it was left ambiguous. But you remember that old show where they talked about, like, it was like this guy talking about these it's like unsolved mysteries or something. It was a guy, yeah, it used to scare the living shit out of me as a child. And I don't know why. I don't know why I was up late, but I really wish, that those were solved.
So you really might have to cut this, but and I'm being honest here.
Okay, I could.
No. We'll obviously discuss this. So I'm the same way. Like I was obsessed with unsolved mysteries. Like I will devour anything about Bigfoot that's out there, even if it's the dumbest thing you've ever seen. But I distinctly remember that this always happened. I don't know how old I was, but I would watch unsolved mysteries
or wait, you'd watch what?
I was really young, and I would watch something on, I'd watch unsolved mysteries, or I'd watch, something supernatural, or scary, or monster, whatever, history channel, whatever channel it would have, PBS, whatever it was on at that time. And I would be on the couch. Now, my dad would be like in the recliner, love seat, asleep, and I could deal with it. I could watch it. He would wake up and say, just groggy, "What are you watching?" And I would tell him, "Oh, it's something, they're hunting Bigfoot." And I always distinctly remember he would climb the steps and he would turn around halfway and he'd like, "You get scared, don't try to crawl on our bed tonight." And I would be like, I should probably stop watching this. Exactly what's going to happen. I'm going to get freaked out. And be scared to death. But I'm like you. I like, oh my God, that stuff freaked me out. Freaked me out. But yeah, I mean, it's such a time period for them to choose. How in depth do they go with these mysteries, history, and what do we find out? We're still dealing with like ancient legends, ancient beliefs and customs. I mean, we're still influenced by ancient Egypt and ancient Samaria and Mesopotamia. We're talking these civilizations were started in 4500 BC, 3100 BC. I mean, when I was looking into some of this stuff, think about this. If Christ was real, I'm talking religion here. If he was real, his time period is closer to you and I than he was to the ancient Sumerians.
Wow, I never
Egyptians. Think about that.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
4500 BC, 3150 BC for ancient Egypt, and obviously our timeline is built around his birth and death, and he was I think he was born in like 50 BC. So we're 2068 years from his death and resurrection, if you believe that. Where ancient Samaria, give or take, I think, yes, somewhere around there. But yeah, he's closer to our time period. He was to the ancient Sumerians, and you would think those two would be much closer than.
That I don't know why that never think about that. I mean, it's right there in your face, and I guess you just don't really consider it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So that's why it's going to to focus on this time period. And again, it could be a marketing tool. We don't know how in depth it's going to be. But there's a couple interesting things read that I think kind of highlight what we've been talking here about the Long Night, about this prequel show. You know, Jamie Lannister is in the river. He negotiated an end to the siege of Raventree Hall. He's met with Tytos Blackwood, who I think is a pretty fascinating character. You know, just as a side note there. But part of the negotiation is Jamie takes a hostage. He takes Hoster Blackwood, Tytos' son. And Hoster is a very he's described as a book.
He's described as a what?
A bookworm.
Okay.
A bookworm.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you hit a lag spike right there, but you can continue.
Yep. So Hoster says to Jamie, past a certain point, all the dates grow hazy and confused, and the clarity of history becomes the legend. So I think that's an interesting quote to remember, that, you know, while these people are going through the law, you know, they know what's going on. They know the events that are taking place. But you're dealing with cultures that didn't write things down, that etch things on a cave or runes on a stone. That, you know, that all that stuff is lost to history. What we have is legend. I think that's just a fascinating thing, and it's true in our own world. I mean,
yeah.
You know, we don't know what ancient civilization once existed on this planet. I mean, you know, most scientists believe the Earth is billions of years old. So, you know, I'm not saying there's some vast civilization that once lived here, but it's possible.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
So one more quote, and then I'll stop talking. We've been talking a long time. This is great.
Yes.
But it's another quote
dealing with what?
Dealing with history, dealing with legend, history, and all this. And forgive me, I forgot to write down which book this is from. But this is Sam talking to John. And he says, the oldest histories we have written after the Andals came to Westeros, excuse me. The first men only left us runes on rocks. So everything we know about the Age of Heroes and the Dawn Age, Long Night, comes from accounts set down by Septons thousands of years later. There are archmaesters at the Citadel who question all of it. So again, we're in that fog of legend. We're, you know, what's real and what's not real. And I think it's going to be a fascinating journey to showcase when that prequel does air.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. And I think I want to say, I mean, that quote's either got to be from A Storm of Swords or A Feast for Crows. I mean,
I was going to say it has to be one of those. Obviously, Sam doesn't have that job, that steward's job, and and he and John are separated in A Clash of Kings, I believe, and then they come back together in A Storm of Swords. Yeah, so I think you're right. It's either A Storm of Swords or A Feast for Crows.
And if we're wrong, you know, don't hold us to it.
Wrong? Sue us. Let's matter. So, I mean, anything else you want to talk about? I think we're gonna maybe ask a couple questions. I think we've talked at length here, but
yeah, I mean, let's get into the questions.
Okay. All right.
I think that'd be a good way to, you know, wind it down, maybe, or if we talk for another hour, whatever, you know.
Yeah. So, do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
It doesn't matter. I think you have the more intricate. God, why can't I say that? Intricate.
Intricate question. All right.
Yes. All right.
So, I'll ask this one first. So this is an important question ever. We never hear anyone ask this. There's no speculation whatsoever regarding it. What date will the Winds of Winter release? Now, I'll give a little bit of leniency on this answer. You can either pick a specific date, like July 1st, 2018. I mean, be that specific, go for it. But maybe month and year even, if you want to try to be a little general.
Okay, I'm thinking 2019. When does I'm being an optimist here. Isn't the what's the Fire and Blood? Doesn't that drop in November?
November 20th of this year.
Okay, I'm gonna say 20th. November of 2019.
All right, November 2019. So I'm writing this down because when it finally does release, someone will have to have bragging rights, or we'll have to say, boy, do you remember 4 years ago when?
Yes.
That would release.
And hey, I'm gonna even put in a day, the 29th. The 29th.
Oh, wow.
But don't hold me to that one. But maybe.
Okay, yeah. November 29th, 2018. Okay, that sounds. All right, I'm actually going to go with. I'm going to go with July 2019. I think that again, I don't think it's intentional on George's part, but I think that you'll get some cathartic relief by the show having ended. The buzz and the popularity will still be there, and sometime summer. So I think July 2019 is when it will release.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. So you have a question for me, or do you want me to keep going?
Okay. Yeah, I got a. Let's see. I forgot where I put my questions. Where did I have my questions? Was it in the other drive? Oh well, I got this one. Actually, I haven't really thought of this, or thought of what my answer would be. But they're gonna have one. But what do you think Tyrion's next T-shirt quote will be in season 8?
Oh man,
when it finally drops.
I knew you were gonna ask me this one, and I should have thought a lot more about this. So. So last season, was it last season or I said last season or season 6? He had the I drink and I know. Did he have it? Did he have one last season?
I don't know. I know he was it season 3. I mean, he was like, "I'm the god of tits and wine" or something.
Right.
Which is the one that one's my favorite. So
yeah, that's definitely a good one. So I'm gonna. It's
a hard one. I'm gonna be like you. I haven't thought of this.
I'm gonna go with. It's gonna be.
It's wait what?
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with it's. It's gonna be whatever the answer is. Ass taking an ass into a jackass into a brothel, honeycomb. Whatever the end of that joke is, that's what's going to be. Now I don't know what that is.
What if he goes against the Night King is closing in on him, and then he knows he's going to die, and then okay.
Cut out. You said he goes against the Night King.
Oh yeah. What if the Night King closes in on him? He knows he's going to die, and he says that joke to him, and he doesn't get to finish it.
Oh, I didn't think about that. I was getting ready to say, what if Night King stops and they turn and go back north?
Yeah. Or that, and the realm is saved.
Yeah.
The realm is saved.
Tyrion's like, I should have told that joke like the 30 other times I tried to say it. Is that in the books? Is that joke in the books?
I don't think so, but I could be completely wrong. I don't remember it.
he first says it at the trial in the Vale, right? He's saying it when he's going off to Lysa Arryn, and
Yeah.
yeah.
And I don't
Okay.
remember. Yeah, I don't remember if it is or not. So maybe someone can answer that if they've listened this long. But
Yeah.
but
So what would yours be?
hmm I don't know. Let's see. Let's see. Season 8. I didn't get a chance to think about this, or I would have came up with one. But let's see. Off the top of my head, I'll come up with a better one later. But
Okay.
but let's see. Hmm. Man, I don't want to like cop out on this. hmm.
I just thought of another one that would be kind of um, have you ever seen Mel Brooks's History of the World?
No.
Okay, so you obviously know who Mel Brooks is. I mean, Blazing Saddles, Spaceballs, Young
Yeah.
Frankenstein, all that.
Okay.
So
Is which? Wait. Okay. I know those movies, but which? Oh, did you say? Wait. Okay. Mel Brooks is
it's his
which?
History of the World.
What? But what character does he play in Spaceballs? Because I really know that movie.
He's President Scroob. He's the
Oh, okay,
president.
okay, all right.
Yeah, he has. Well, he also
Okay.
plays Yogurt. He plays the Yoda character.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
so he plays both. Yeah, uh, so in History of the World, it's it's different vignettes. It's different segments. So it has like an ancient Rome. It has the Ten Commandments, which is a funny segment because Mel Brooks comes down as Moses and he's oh, hear me, children of Israel, I present to you these 15. And he drops one tablet and he goes, Oi, 10 commandments.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, there's a segment where he's playing King Louis of France, and he's jumping on all these women, he's grabbing their tits, he's hitting their butt, and he looks at the camera and he says, "It's good to be the king." He also says it in when he plays Friar Tuckman, or I'm sorry, Rabbi Tuckman. I screwed that up.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So imagine if Tyrion becomes king and he looks at the camera and says, "It's good to be the king." He's surrounded like a harem. So yeah, again, not supporting harems of women. It would just be funny. That just popped in my mind, and I thought I'd give you some time to think of your answer.
And well, I still haven't thought of one. I'll we'll talk about some other stuff, and I'll come back to it. And
Okay, all right.
if I don't get around to it, I will make it up next episode.
All right.
To you.
All right. So I'm gonna ask you one more question.
Okay.
And then I'm done with my questions. I might save some of these others for another time because I know we've been talking a long time here.
Okay.
So When's a Winner release date was a serious question, but a question about in universe. Okay, so you've just been appointed to the small kingdom. What position do you hold?
Yes.
And what do you do with that power?
If you didn't ask me this question, I was gonna tell you. I was just gonna read that question and be like, I know I'll do another one, but I'll do one of mine. But this is one I actually got to think of.
All right.
So I thought a lot about this, and I just thought, okay. First of all, the Hand of the King. No, they always die,
Right.
or get screwed over.
Right.
Master of Whispers, no, thank you. The Treasure or whatever, Master Coin, no. What was it, Master of Laws? Nah.
Yeah.
I forget the others, but what I would do is Master of Ship. At least it just seems like you don't have to do as much work because what really does the Royal Fleet do, unless it's wartime?
Right.
They don't seem like they really do a whole lot. I mean, they might do a little more than I'm thinking, but it's still, the least risk and maybe and then maybe least reward, but I feel like it's the least risk of all those positions.
Yeah. Yeah.
As
Well,
horribly as that could end for any of those people, it just seems
yeah.
like you're pretty safe.
Yeah. Yeah. That was actually going to be my answer. So thanks for stealing it. So so yeah, I'll tell you why I would want to be master of ships, but then I'll pick another one because I have another good answer. So I would pick master of ships, and what I would do. So there's a famous moment in American history. I think it's under Teddy Roosevelt, um, when he was president, in the early 1900s. Um, he wanted to exert American influence on the world and showcase the might that was America, and so he built this massive fleet, and had it sail around the world. Like it sailed to Japan, it sailed to China, it sailed to Europe. It just kind of showcased American power, and I think that's dangerous in Westeros. You don't want to provoke a war, and you definitely don't want your entire fleet uh, leaving port.
Yeah.
But I think it would be fun to sell to the free cities and just kind of say here's this impressive war fleet that the king or the queen of Westeros has just built, and I as master of ships, but also I'd rather my title be admiral.
Yeah.
Um, just fucking rolling around places with this huge ass fleet behind me. Because like I said early in the show, like I want to have a huge fleet that I just lead and uh, crush everyone.
Okay, I got my
But
got
so
my got my Tyrion. Oh well,
all
finish.
right,
I got my
all
Tyrion.
right, all right. Hold on to it. So since you chose master ships, I'll choose master of law. I have no idea what the fuck master of laws does,
He
and I
creates
really
laws.
hate choosing. Well,
He
yeah,
kind
I
of
hate
does.
picking it. I hate picking it because Renly Baratheon held that position, and screw Renly Baratheon. Um, but I would like to. So, there needs to be, and I know that this probably works. This probably happens. It's in a feudal system, the lesser lords, um, um, not the lesser lords, the liege lords, uh, the big noble houses like Stark and Lannister. They settle a lot of disputes and everything. But I think I'd like to do that. I would like to, kind of be like a traveling uh, uh, magister or justicer. You go around and settle disputes between you know two kingdoms or two regions, and I think that would be kind of fun to
Yeah, definitely.
have the king's peace, the king's strength behind you, and settle those disputes. And you'd probably, because again, we're talking about a very intricate plot here, that has a lot of foundation in real world politics, and those type of maneuvers and settling disputes, creates a peaceful kingdom and endears you to your people, that they can feel they walked away with everyone giving a little, but everyone getting a little.
Okay.
So you're Tyrion, sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Something's gonna happen. Like a gonna get cut in half, or like something's gonna get bitten in half, and he's gonna be like, "Oh, you're only half the man you used to be," or something like that, or something along the lines of, "Now you're a half man too," or
Like you're a half man like me.
yeah, so maybe something like that. I don't know.
Someone's just gonna like
Or-
lose their leg.
Yeah, or he's gonna say something about it. It's a cold world out there or something.
That's pretty good. All right,
It's about time. It's about time we all felt it. It's a cold world.
Yeah.
It's about time we all felt it.
Yeah,
Or something like that.
All right.
Maybe something like that.
That actually sounds like something Tyrion would say.
Yeah.
Especially in the context with the coming winter. It's definitely gonna be.
Yeah.
All right, that's pretty good. Pretty good. Good job. Good job.
And I guess I'll do one more.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So, what do you think Jon Snow's Tinder account would look like? And what would he have in his description, and just what kind of photos would he have? And of himself, like that he would choose. And okay, go ahead.
Well, you know, if you're show John, you definitely have to show off those abs and that ass. I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, as a hetero male, I'm totally down for it.
Do you think? This is another one of my questions. Do you think we're going to see his ass again in season 8? Do you think that's a must? now that it's been shown.
Well, I would think I would say to you, Brett, do we need to see more? We saw such a great amount, and it's again legend. No, he would he would definitely show off those physical attributes. The man bun is. I don't like man buns, but he rocks it pretty well. But I think he would pose with Ghost. One, we need more Ghost. Like Ghost, he needs to get back in the show.
Oh yeah,
but women, and obviously Jon Snow is attracted to women, so women are attracted.
Good point.
Women are attracted to men with babies or men with dogs, and so he's got to have his dire wolf in there with him. Like that's definitely you're gonna have women saying, "Oh, look how cute! Look at his red eyes." Then they're gonna be obviously attracted to Jon Snow because of that. So I think he would pose a lot with Ghost, and probably just like wrapped in a little bit of fur, nothing else. So okay, I've thought way too much.
What do you think's in his description now? What has he got? Like,
what is it?
Yeah, like his description. What do you think he'd put in his description? Like Lord Commander of the.
Yeah, I think he would share some of those titles, but I think he would appeal. I mean, he's Jon Snow. I mean, he's loyal. He's I think he would really lean on being loyal and all that. Like, I think he would do that.
I think he would.
What do you think?
I think somewhere in his description it'd be like, I do know some things.
But I think what I do know something.
Yeah. It'd be like, I do know some things.
Yeah, that would be, and like some things would like be bold and italicized because what I was like, what does he know? Yeah, he knows.
And I feel like he'd have. I feel like he would have like a, just a picture of him like maybe training in the yard in his Lord Commander outfit. Just maybe with Ghost by him, and then he would definitely have one where he's just like maybe on vacation somewhere, just kind of brooding, but trying. He's not quite. You could tell he's happy, but he's not quite smiling. Maybe a Hawaiian shirt on. It's open though. The Hawaiian shirt's unbuttoned. I don't know, but
yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, he's like. Well, just imagine like when he showed up to like Dragon's. Wow, this is the warmest place in Westeros.
And he did want to just go on vacation, so yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. He was like, they stabbed me, they killed me. I really just want to go. I really just want to go south to some warmth. So
I'm done.
Yeah. So he'd be good with that. Yeah, I think you're right.
Well, I think that about wraps it up. Unless you have anything else, Travis. Sir Travis.
No. Okay. Sir Travis. Yeah. Yeah. Soon it will be Lord Travis. So be prepared.
Ooh.
And And as I said in the podcast, I'm working up to Grand Admiral, so get ready. Everyone.
Oh.
My fleet is coming for you. No, I think this was a great time. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you check back with us again. Like Brett said, like I said, we want this to be your podcast. We want you to come on and be guests and tell your story. We want this to be an interaction of the fans, and also a way to celebrate them. So, thank you all for listening.
And if you've made it this far, I do apologize for my mic. I messed the settings up, and I did not check it before we started recording. So we talked for about 3.5 hours, and then I checked the recording. So hopefully it's passable. The next time, the next episode, that's not going to happen. We'll make sure. So
right.
If you made it this far, but you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on SoundCloud. You can find us on Podbean. I'm missing one, right?
Twitter. We're on
Twitter
as well.
You can find us, at Planetos Podcast. Wait, is it at Planetos Podcast? Is there an underscore?
No,
super
Brett.
simple.
We got it simple. We got it straightforward. You find us anywhere. Not anywhere. Exactly where Brett just said.
Those five sites.
Yeah. Planetos Podcast.
And we'll provide links to all of those. And then our personal Twitters. I am at HomelyPillow on Twitter.
And I am at Sir_Travis.
And
email. We want people to email us with if they have questions or they have ideas. We want them to email us, and you can email us at Planetos Podcast. Again, easy, planetospodcast@gmail.com.
Just keeping it super simple, straight across the board.
That's right. Look, there's so many crazy words in this series that we got to keep it simple.
Yeah. All right. Well, good night or good morning or whatever. But goodbye. We're done talking. We're done. We're done talking.
We're done.
Today.
We're done.
All right.
See y'all later.
The intro song is called Jungo's Ballad. That's by Dylan Revihs and myself. And the outro song is by a good friend of mine and his band, Bleach Garden. And this song is called Smack. Check it out.